Welcome back to Release, the podcast that takes you behind the software with some of the biggest and most influential companies in the world. I'm Derek Holt, CEO of Digital.ai, and I could not be more excited to welcome today's guest, Chandra Shirashyad. Chandra is the director of engineering at Okta, is an absolute thought leader in the identity security space, brings a tremendous amount of experience to the table. Super excited for this conversation. Chandra, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Derek. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, look, I know that with this audience, Chandra, like the reality is they know all about Okta, but maybe I'll give a little bit of a precursor here just in case somebody hasn't been paying attention. But Okta is ultimately the leading identity and access management platform, right, that sits really at the center, from my view, of how people securely access technology. And from the earliest days, that was sort of web, cloud, SaaS, remote work, et cetera. More recently, we're going to spend a lot of time on this. We start to think about what is that identity layer for AI and for the models that we're interacting and the agentic solutions that we're interacting with. But really, this control plane that Okta has provided for enterprises to make sure that the right people and systems get access to the right data at the right time, et cetera, et cetera. And so Okta, like, they're everywhere. I think is one of the things you quickly find when you're spending time with the team there, managing billions of identity authentications every month. Scale, complexity, globally distributed, all, center of the AI revolution, all of the things that we love to talk about here on the podcast. So Chandra, really, really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
So just maybe to get the audience a little bit booted up in terms of a bit of your background and also sort of your time both in the identity and security space, but also your time at Okta. Maybe just give us a little bit about a bit of a brief history and provide a little context there, and then maybe talk a little bit about the work that you're doing today at Okta.
Absolutely. So my tech journey has been pretty classic, Derek. I am a builder and an engineer at heart. I go way back in the day when floppy disks were a thing.
I remember.
Yeah. So those times when cybersecurity was just a guy standing outside the computer lab, making sure you did not steal a floppy disk. That was the extent of security.
Make sure the door was locked as well. Exactly. The door was locked. That was good too, right?
Sometimes like some labs used to even make sure that you take off your shoes because walk around in the lab with the socks because they didn't want dust going in there. Yeah. Since then, my career has evolved. Like I've been seeing the software industry from multiple different angles. Like I have been a system administrator protecting the machines themselves and the operating system, and being a database administrator, Oracle database, SQL Server database, DBA for some time. And I've been a web application developer for a long time, mobile application developer. But the real aha moment was when I became an identity and access management administrator. That's when it was the intersection of everything. That's when I realized that, identity is the central thread. The core problem was who is this? Are you the right person? Are you allowed to be here? And what are you allowed to do? So that sparked my passion. I was always passionate about cybersecurity, but this is where I found my niche in the identity security. And that landed me at Okta.
Yeah, I love your role because what's super interesting I find, and we have this privilege as well, which is, we are engineers building tools for engineers for all intents and purposes. You are a security professional, building security tools for security professionals. And so, yeah, I'd love to understand sort of just like the area within Okta that you find yourself in and sort of how you guys think about the work that you guys are doing in terms of your teams.
So my team, I lead the teams that build the front door. In a very simple one line answer is my team is responsible for the front door. By that, I mean think of us as buffed up bouncers guarding the internet's most popular club. So everything that you see at when you try to log in to using Okta, the first thing that you see is that velvet rope with the bouncer standing there, which is the sign-in widget. And we're responsible for the SDKs as well. which is the bouncers for the backdoor. So you can use authentication SDKs, and you don't have to go through the sign-in widget, but you can build an application that uses our authentication SDKs. Okta Verify, that's the tool, which is an authenticator, but it's not just an authenticator. Like many people think, oh, Okta Verify is an authenticator. It is, but it does a lot more things than authentication. It's our primary device posture provider. It collects the signals from your device, and this is where Digital.ai helps us, harden our application here, right? And in addition to Okta Verify, we have device assurance, which is basically, yeah, sure, we know who you are, you have access, we'll let you in, but the device that you're coming from is not compliant, it's not managed, or it doesn't have, you don't have a passcode on it. So we need to make sure that you are who you are, but also you are coming from a device that can be trusted.
What I love about your solutions in this space generally is, on one hand, it is some of the most complex, ornate engineering efforts, right, to get it right. On the other hand, when you get it right, it's almost seamless, right? It's almost behind the scenes, and so there is a magic to that level of complexity that to the end user, when done right, it is a seamless, fluid experience when you log into a new system, or you're trying to gain access to something, obviously, that you would be permissioned to gain access to.
Exactly. And the front door, what used to be like humans knocking at the door, now it's not just people knocking on the front door. Now it's like non-human identities, the machines, so the AI agents, all of these are like even though my team's focus is changing in a way that, not just the humans are knocking at the door, but different entities, different kinds of identities.
Well, so let's talk through that, right? Okta kind of came to fame, or kind of came up in the cloud SaaS, online world, if you just want to think about it that way, by sort of unifying and simplifying and enhancing identity across what I guess will now all think of as like the beginning part of the internet. Now we have the AI dimension. How has Okta's mission to become the foundation of the identity layer on sort of the old mission, I think, which was like more deterministic applications and software, to the new mission, which is that and AI and agents? Like, how has that evolved? How has that challenged your team? How are you guys thinking about it?
I'll tell you one thing. Our core vision is not much has changed when it comes to our core vision. Our vision is free everyone to safely use any technology. And that's still very much true. If anything, it has been supercharged now. The definition of everyone and any technology has been changing. The word everyone now includes AI agents. That's the part I was talking about earlier. Now we have gone from being a bouncer at the door for just humans to like any kind of identity. So think of it as like a valet. Like you hand off your car key to the valet. We want to that's an authentication. That person is authenticated. He or she is allowed to do something, but are they just doing what they are allowed to do, what they are authorized to do, which is to go and park your car and bring it back to you, or are they going on a joyride? So that's the part which is what we should be taking care of right now. Derek, is have an agent, you wanted to do a specific thing, pull a report for you, but it's supposed to do, supposed to have access to only certain amount of data and not beyond that. Cannot have elevate its permission and go grab something that you don't have access to. So these are some of the things that are changing. The big conceptual shift is from static authentication, which is what used to be like rule-based. Here are the rules, you follow it, and then you let a person in, to a dynamic trust, continuous verification, making sure that what is being authorized is what is being used for.
It's super interesting to me. I think, a lot of times for those of us in the industry, we're spending a lot of time thinking, okay, hey, there's a new, Opus 4.6 comes out, or ChatGPT 5.2, and then all the tools that are using it to be able to power the tools that we have access to. I think often we're looking at the capabilities as the foundation models as being like the delimiting factor. Whereas I think what we're seeing, and I'd love to get your take on this, in the enterprise, there's actually there's two different things that are potentially holding organizations back. One is classic, which is just generally organizational change, right? Having new ways of working, trying new things, getting out of doing things the way that they used to be done. And there's a whole bunch of techniques around driving that. But the other one that I think is maybe not so obvious to somebody from a distance is if you don't get identity right, it's almost impossible to roll these things out in large scale enterprises, and maybe even more so in any regulated industry, because you cannot have, to your point, it's one thing to give the agent access to get in. You can't have the agent doing a joyride on your data. And so talk a little bit about like how your products are evolving to meet not only the obvious needs of the beginning stages of an agentic world, but also how do you stay up on everything when next week things are going to change again.
Yeah. So the identity is shifting from roles to intent, right? So earlier it's like you would hire somebody as a sales engineer, sales rep, or a accountant, and they would have specific um, titles, and then you buy that by the department they're in, or role based,
Certain
depending
permissions. Yeah. Yeah.
on permissions. You have access
Yeah.
to Salesforce, you have access to Workday, whatever. Like, but that is changing. Now it's identity based on intent, right? It's not just who, but also what you are trying to do. Like if you are if there is an agent which is running on behalf of an accountant, it's allowed to do a certain things only. It cannot have access beyond what that particular accountant is supposed to have. What is the intent? And the second thing is about permissions, right? And these agents can run any time of the day, right? It's not like they're
Yeah, they
not,
don't sleep the last I checked, right? Yeah, yeah.
and you cannot have standing permissions. These permissions have to be just in time. So if an agent needs to run a query on a database to pull a report for an accountant, it should have not only just a limited amount of permission, but also just in time. You need access for 15 seconds or 10 seconds or even fraction of a second to run that. And after that, after the task is done, the access is revoked. No standing permissions. And also the scale, right? It's machine scale now. You cannot have like me or like an administrator sitting and granting access. It has to be automated. It has to be policy as a core, right? Access is granted at thousands of permissions, or thousands of authorizations are given and revoked per second, maybe even, right? So
Yeah, it's
that's
it's
the kind of scale we're dealing with here.
yeah, it is really interesting. I mean, it is not just so on one hand, to your point, like there's a scale ramp, right? And so if I have, I don't know, if I have 10,000 employees and I've got 100,000 agents, like there is clearly an order of magnitude scale difference. But to your point, it is a fundamental shift in how we even think about quote unquote identity, right? Because like in the past, it's been an email address, a name, to your point, a job title, and probably a series of permissions that are either checked or not checked. We are now moving to a dynamic environment where it's about intent. And in some ways, you could argue that intent is sort of spans agents and humans, right? Like, because intent is ultimately the thing that's going to matter. Really interesting. Now, do you guys see, as you start to think about it, maybe we're getting a little bit into the future here a bit, but you alluded to it a bit, but like much like we have thought about identity or now intent as a bit of what job is to be done. Let's say I'm on the legal team or I'm on the finance team. Is your hypothesis or what you're seeing that agents are going to be classified very similarly in the sense of they are going to be organized into certain functional areas, and then within that they are going to have a set of things that they're allowed to do and not allowed to do, and frankly, as you highlighted, maybe times when they're allowed to do it and times when they're not allowed.
I mean, this is where like the relationship between like trust, access, control. I mean, these are the things. Like the relationship among these like trust, access, and control is reversed now. Think of like an analogy would be like giving your teenager a credit card, right? So the access itself is a plastic card, or an API key in the case of an agentic AI, and spending limits. Like you want to make sure that you know how much they spend and what they spend. So these are the controls you need to have, and then you need to have trust. Obviously, the model used to be trust, access, control. Oh, I trust you, so I give you access, and I put some controls on it. Now here we have to do it the other way around. We have to start with limited access. I am granting you access to do specific things, but I'm going to put some very tight controls. And then I'm continuously verifying the trust. I want to make sure that you are doing exactly what you're doing, and I am monitoring these things. And then if ever, like basically putting guardrails on AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a different paradigm.
Yes.
Interesting. And so how do you think about when you think about in many organizations, the large scale organizations, even when we were just managing human identity that are maybe administrators and using the Okta tools and getting things set up, how is their job going to change, or how is it already changing in this new AI?
So everybody is going to become more efficient, right? Like we are seeing this in our development as well, right? So everybody is going to be more effective and get the productivity. Everybody is going to gain huge amount of productivity gain. However, we need to be extremely careful on usage of AI, right? So I would think of AI as a overeager intern, right? So they, it wants to help you. It's a very, very eager, and you know, it's fast and wants to help you. But the thing is, it doesn't know the difference between what's like it's supposed to do and what it's not supposed to do. It can overstep its authority and go beyond because it's naive, right? It doesn't know what it's supposed to do. So an accountant may ask the AI to do something, and it can accidentally go and get access to something. This is where it can escalate its privilege. Privilege
Sure.
escalation might happen.
Sure.
That's where identity comes into the picture, right? We have to make sure that the amount of access and authorization that is given to that AI agent is limited, and it's delegated authentication. You have access to work on behalf of Derek or this accountant, and you can only do what that accountant can do. So that's the kind of things that we need to be able to put guardrails on when it comes to like professionals or
It's super interesting, and I think you think about the traditional identity and access management administrator, or the IAM manager or whatnot. Their role has always been, hey, we got to really partner with the business. It's now more important than ever as you're starting to think about the adoption of additional agents and the evolution of managing intent and identity in this new world. It's super dynamic, super interesting, and of course, Okta is very much at the forefront, both of what we know today, but also of the things that I think we're all learning as we go. So, Chandra, maybe pivot a little bit here. You run engineering teams, right? You happen to be in this particular industry, but you run engineering teams. You got a deep background, as you mentioned, across a whole bunch of different roles. We talk a lot about at Digital.ai that we have entered what we call the fourth wave of software development and delivery. And the context there is wave number one was procedural, maybe even before the floppy disks, right? We had co-located teams. There was no obvious networks outside of maybe the physical location that you're in. And teams were co-located and they delivered in a waterfall fashion, not because they wanted to, but that was the only way to deliver software when you had to go print the floppy disk, right? Obviously, the internet then, late 90s, became obvious. And that unlocked incremental or iterative delivery, which to me, the internet was as responsible for starting the wave of agile development methodologies as anything, right? Like it was core. I think object-oriented help, but like really modern tools and the ability to deliver software every time you wanted to deliver software over the internet was like a real big unlock. Obviously, we're sort of on the backside of what I consider more of a scale moment, which was around cloud and mobile and going from roughly 100 million people on the internet around 2000, 2001 to everybody being on across. As I'm sitting here, I got at least 5 devices connected to the internet for just me. We've now entered this new wave, right? And we went through the procedural, the agile development. I'd say cloud and mobile were kind of marked by scale, DevOps, like automation, et cetera. When you think about this fourth wave, how has it changed, or how has it evolved Okta's thinking around how you guys build the solutions that we all use, how you do engineering? How are you guys thinking about adoption?
right. Yeah, there are 3 things that come to my mind, right? There are 3 shores I would call. Like one is how we build. Engineers are like a few years ago. Engineers used to start from scratch, right? right? Get the
Blank slate of paper, right? Like just
exactly.
a blank whiteboard. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I used to have like good ideas, not that ideas were not there. The idea is, but I would still be writing the code from scratch, pretty much. It would take me a long time to do that. Now we have AI, as I said, like super eager intern helping me,
Yeah.
but that junior programmer is very fast. He can get me the first draft very, very quickly, and he does a fairly good job. And I can only imagine how he, what that junior intern can be will be able to do in the next year or next 3 to 4 years. But already the first draft of the code comes out really, really quickly, and that's what we're doing. We have rolled out Copilot. We are using Gemini Code Assist and Cloud Code. So all of these we are using this for productivity. And things that are very interesting are like, we get the unit tests, the documentation, the boilerplate code, the refactoring. All of this is happening really, really fast. So we're using AI for our productivity. We want to be able to deliver our time to market is going to be faster. The value to the customers will bring it much faster. And the second thing is what we build, right? It's how we build obviously helps with productivity. The what we build is also an important thing, and that's what we have been discussing all along, right? We have to change what we are building. Now we have to leverage AI in every aspect of our product. For example, we have Okta AI, which is helping in our identity risk, identity ITDR, identity threat detection and response, our risk assessment. So authentication or the identity management has moved from just the front door to beyond. Like it's not like, oh, I have the front door and it's locked and it's
Yeah.
secure. That's not enough. The threat can be afterwards as well. Like that's where AI is coming and helping us here. Has anything changed? Did your device posture? Derek was on his mobile phone, logged into very sensitive application, but then he moved. He was in a car and he was connected to the home Wi-Fi, and they went to a coffee shop. The threat immediately changed. The risk has changed. It's
Yeah,
gone up.
sure.
We need to
Sure.
do something. So
Yeah.
things like that. We are changing what we're building with AI, right? And then obviously the last thing is we're exploring like what else we can do, like identifying bottlenecks, identifying vulnerabilities, and how can we design a more secure and more stable application and so on. So we are using AI in almost every aspect of our software development life.
I love it. It's one of the things that's super exciting about like the industry that we both find ourselves in, which is like when everybody asks, I don't know, if you go to a non-technical domain and ask the team, how are you using AI? They'll tell you, oh, well, we use a Copilot, like a Microsoft or ChatGPT or whatnot, helps us write emails, helps us, respond to certain things, helps us summarize things. But for us, it's very nuanced because like there's a set of things that are changing. Number one, we are using AI to get more productive at the tasks that we do, which is like building software. Number two, the software that we are building are helping people build AI-based software. And so like we're going from deterministic applications, and I would say Okta historically has had to manage or help secure identity for deterministic applications. Now you got to do it in a non-deterministic world, which opens up a whole new. And then we're also saying with the advent of AI, what are the new opportunities that drive value that like we never even considered before, right? And so it's so multifaceted. Like I sort of have to laugh a little bit when somebody says, "Oh, how are you guys using AI?" I'm like, "How long do you got?" It's pretty complicated, right?
Yeah. So we are using AI the way they are using, which is for productivity. It polishes my email, it polishes my
Sure,
slide deck.
sure.
We're
Yeah,
using everything that they are using it for. But in addition to that, we are also thinking how we can protect them
yeah,
from hurting themselves
yes,
using AI, which is a
yes,
differentiator between them and us. Because we have to
yeah,
not only we have to use like the way they are using to improve our productivity, but we also have to think then like what harm can AI do?
yeah,
How do we
yeah. That's
secure
exactly
AI?
right.
How do you
Yeah,
secure our customers from AI related issues? Like, you remember that? I don't know if you know about this. Like, uh, there was a social engineering attack where uh, there was a room full of uh, people. Like, your own like CEO and your finance CFO and everyone, like they were all fake.
Yeah.
And somebody extorted like $2 million by
Jeez.
making an accountant sign a check uh, with entire fake people
Wow.
in the
Yeah.
room.
I mean, this is a
These are-
long way from the random WhatsApps that claim that I need somebody to buy me a Best Buy or a Amazon gift card ASAP. Those were pretty rudimentary and easy
yes,
to detect. To your point, everything's changing. And as we've talked about a lot, like obviously most of it, hopefully most of it is being used for good and for innovation as always. And certainly this was the case with mobile and web and others. We got to also keep an eye on the fact that threat actors are using these things, more aggressively and the level of
our threat
sophistication
models
certainly
have changed.
growing.
Our
Yeah.
The way we do threat models have completely changed now.
Dramatically changed.
Take
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
into consideration
Well,
now.
and the scale that they can operate at. Well, like talk a little bit about then, just like as we start to think forward, and in particularly like what we just described. I mean, we're lucky enough to like all day, every day be thinking this. You're probably similar to me. Like even when I'm not working, I'm reading these things. I'm just like a student of the space. It's as much my passion as is my career. Um, but it is a lot. It is moving fast. I was just on earlier this week with a pretty senior person at one of the foundation models, and I was like, one of the observations I have for myself is like historically, I've tried things, I've learned what it's good at, what it's not good at, and then that's how I kind of code my usage. Um, um, with the speed of innovation around the foundational elements, it's almost like you can't assume if something didn't work last week that it might not work this week, right? And all of those improvements are happening sort of behind the scenes, and so you almost have to have this like very experimental mindset in everything you do, and you've got to assume that maybe it got better, and let me try it, try that same prompt again and see if it's improved. As a leader in a forward-leaning company, what are some of the techniques that you use to stay up to speed yourself?
I use AI.
It is ironic. You can, yes, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Um, it's so awesome, right? You use AI to learn AI, right? Um, we have several tools within Okta. I mean, one of the important things, like for engineering leaders like us, right, is to make sure that AI is used correctly, right? At Okta, we have had what's called as AI days, like company-wide AI days, right? And then we had a whole month of prompt engineering. But not, I wouldn't call it prompt engineering. Basically, there was a training. Like every day, we were given a challenge to write prompts. We have various training models. Like we had mandatory training basically on AI within the company. Everybody needs to become proficient with AI. Basically, how do we use it? It's what are the nuances? Like the AI can hallucinate, is very verbose, for example. It just spits out way too many things. You need to know exactly uh, how to ask AI and put the guardrails on it and make sure that you're getting the best out of it. And that's the kind of thing, uh, overall, for everyone, it is important. But for engineers, it's even more nuanced. Like we need to, especially if you're using it to write code, we need to make sure that every line of code that the AI writes is vetted by an engineer, a senior
yeah,
engineer.
yeah,
Everything
yeah.
that AI writes is owned by, it's not AI. AI can write it. It can help me write the code, but it should, finally, it's my code.
The the
I should
the,
do it.
um, the best way I've heard it stated, and I'll probably butcher this a little bit, but the best way I've heard it stated is, there's this conversation, and you can insert the name of any job. Is AI gonna take my engineering job? Let's use that as an example. And the response I've heard that I think is most well thought out is you don't have to worry about the AI taking your job. What you have to worry about is the engineer who learns how to use AI better than you do taking your job. And I
Ex-
think that's the way we all need to think about it.
Yes, yes. AI doesn't take your job, but somebody who knows AI better will take your job.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
what it is.
And this isn't the first time that's happened, right? Like I highlighted this on a more recent podcast, but there was an image in a magazine somewhere that I was reading online, obviously, but that was from an office in the 80s, and I'm looking at it like there's very few computers, right? Like there are executives just sitting at desks with a phone, like a lot of stacks of paper, and they had to change the way that they worked, right? You think about now, you wouldn't go into any office without probably multiple big screens and whatnot. And this is very similar. It's another tool for the mind. It's another way for us to drive drive innovation.
Yeah, the key is continuous education. It applies to you, it applies to me, it applies to a junior engineer, it applies to everyone in the organizations. If we don't keep up with the tools and the technologies that are evolving, which are happening much faster than before, by the way, which means we need to be able to pick up things really, really quickly. But it's not, at the same time, things are not that hard though. I mean, picking up, as I said, like, I use AI to learn AI. If I don't understand something, I can ask ChatGPT or Gemini, hey, I don't understand this concept. Please, can you simplify it and tell me in layman terms? It'll give you very, very concisely.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think probably the biggest thing holding anyone back, and this is probably the same for everything, is the old "it's always been done that way" mentality. And as long as you have a "let's try new things" mentality in this day and age, to your point, it is democratizing the ability to learn how to do just about anything. And really, it's the onus is on the individual to kind of lean in and constantly almost disrupt themselves, right? You got to constantly be making yourself better. And I think it's a great thing. So, well, look, one of the things I want to close on, and this has been an awesome conversation. One of the things I wanted to close on is let's go back to Okta. Let's go back to identity. Let's go back to this dynamic time that we're in. When you start to look out, and I don't know what the appropriate time horizons ever are, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, when it comes to identity, when it comes to the importance of identity to usher in safely, securely this agentic AI future, what are some of the things that you guys are thinking about that maybe aren't, kind of top of people's list right now, but you think they might be in a year or two?
Yeah. So for your listeners or for any engineering leader out there, I would say the single most critical thing is to win the unification battle. By that, I mean, over the period of time, over the decades, your organization has a sprawling mess of identity silos. You have customer identity, you have employees, you have infrastructure, you have a bunch of engineers who have written code with API keys in there. So it's right now all over the place, and it's a security nightmare already. And with AI coming in and people writing a whole bunch of agents, it becomes uncontrollable. It'll become a nightmare for sure. And one thing that you could do is unify everything. You should have a central identity operating system. I'd call it the identity nervous system. And one single glass of pain where you can control all the policies, as opposed to having all the different people controlling different kinds of identities, different kinds of systems are managed by everything. If you can, otherwise you'll be playing a hopeless game of whack-a-mole.
This is a really good, it's a really, really good take. And we've seen this in some other areas. I was just having a conversation with a development leader on the podcast recently where one of the things we were talking about was the engineering organizations that have built more automation into their software delivery process pre-AI are the ones that are most ready to take advantage of the power of AI, right? Because they've sort of got their house in order, they've gotten things organized, and therefore the benefits that they're seeing around building more quickly, they actually are delivering more quickly. The ones that didn't, where there was a lot of manual stuff downstream, they're writing a lot more code, but they're shocked that they're not delivering anymore, right? But that's because they've not made those investments. And this idea of unifying identity, I've typed this down, I think it's probably fair to say, even if your company, maybe a customer or a potential customer, even if they are not diving all the way into the deep end of AI, they need to be getting identity unified, organized, ready to go, because otherwise they're going to be in a really tough position as things continue to evolve. Fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was trying. You articulated it much better than I did.
No, this is great. Well, listen, Chandra, amazing to talk to you as always. We really always appreciate the partnership. You guys are on the forefront here, and I mean this sincerely. Without Okta, this revolution doesn't happen, right? It'll help one-off people, but helping large enterprises, large organizations do this safely, securely, and hopefully as a collective for a long, long time. It's going to take you guys figuring out, continue to do what you do, but also figuring out some of the new challenges, the new opportunities that are being unlocked. So thank you guys for doing what you do. Thank you for the partnership. Thank you for the time. And for those listening, we'll be back with another episode soon, but we'll mark this one as a really great one. And Chandra, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek.